Hey everyone, so gotta get this to sit, move out of the way. I'm on a mountaintop in a black forest, and I wanted to give everyone a darker view of the black forest. But I climbed a mountain here. I'll find out the name later. I'm not sure exactly what the name is. And apparently it's the highest mountain in this little area. And right as I was about to come down, a raven flew up. So therefore, I know it's the place that I should speak to everyone. So I wanted to give a little intro into what is a Satru, or the way I look at it. And there's no right, as this path is immensely personal, but there is also legitimate writings that have been passed down that should tell us some things more or less. And so even though you can interpret things how you want, you shouldn't try to spread misinformation, or you should try to prevent yourself from spreading misinformation. And this topic is so large that I actually wrote some notes on it. So I'll stand back so you can see me on this rock platform here, whatever the heck it is. But then come forward, speak to you all. So the first thing I want to talk about was that, the roots of the Nordic paganism come out of Proto-Indo-European culture, which was one of the earliest cultures, or not the earliest, was a culture that out of Africa about 35 years ago disseminated across the majority of the northern hemisphere of the old world. They replaced most existing cultures. There are some, like there's languages like the Basque language that has no related languages in Proto-Northern European or Proto-Indo-European, which shows that it did exist prior, and that PIE is not ubiquitous, and it didn't completely create everything. But what it did create is most of the modern successor cultures. The Romans, the Greeks, the Persians, the people in the Vedic Indians, the Celts, the continental Germanics, and also the Scandinavians during the Archean period. So, at its core, basically, the old ways, or this path, is a nativist religion, a nature-worshipping religion. It is very important to the people back then to go out in the groves and the stands and to bleed into the earth. Ooh, that was wonderful. Let's try to switch sides. And to bleed into the earth, as many others had done prior. Now, along with it being a native religion, it was a very heavy on ancestor worship. And ancestor worship is very significant because we are nothing except for what our ancestors were. And I will get more back into this when I get into the geography of the people and how the geography affected the people. But what we know was written down mostly by Icelandic people in the Archean period, it's called, which is like the end of the heathen age. And it had adapted and grown out of what was basically a pan-Germanic or pan-central to Northern European concept. The continental Germans had long since converted to Christianity, so therefore in the subsequent 400 years, the way we look at it, or Satru, had continued to develop and continue to define itself and continued to develop deeper philosophically. So that's why we know of it that way, and that's the differentiation. The reason the names are different, if you want to say you're a Germanic pagan as being a follower of Satru, that's fine. There is many lines that are blurred, but there is definitions that delineate each as different. I don't happen to mind it. My family is mostly continental German, so I look at things try to look at things in a more primitive base. I look back before the Archean period, knowing that now you can look at the gods as personifications of forces of nature, or you can actually look at them as historical personages. Either one is okay and either is incorrect. So I will talk about the way modern heathenism in the northern way is practiced. First, there's 9 nodal virtues. And I won't go into them right now. Some people claim they were created in the 70s and they were codified in the 70s. However, they come out of a very, very real example set forth by the Prussian virtues, as in every warrior culture had a sense of virtues that went up into holding up honor. Honor is of utmost importance. Without your honor, you cannot survive in such a harsh climate that was the ancient pagan Northern European world. There are also symbols. One of them right here, Thor's hammer. People try to take and perverse these things. Something that has been perverse is a swastika. I don't care how much you say you're worthy of wearing it. No one is worthy to wear it because 50 million people died in Europe that day. If you look like me, you had relatives that died. If you think you can wear it, you obviously harbor some kind of false beliefs about elitism. And that's really not why we're here. We're here just to spread knowledge. So, other symbols, the Triskalan, the Odin's horn, Irminsul, try not, there's Valknut, there's a lot that goes into it, and you can share them anyway. Some people tell you you must earn your Thor's hammer. That I've seen as an outgrowth of prison culture, is whereas gangs try to tell you you must earn it by bleeding. I don't look at it that way. I look at it as I, myself, have set trials in my life. When I decided I was to wear this, I started wearing it. I did not wear it everywhere until I climbed a mountain because that was important to me. I did not wear it. I did not do it in gold until I had swam in fjord waters. Certain things like that. But that doesn't matter. If you feel like you should wear it, you should wear it. If you identify with this, that's completely okay. I'll go to the adaptation of geography. A lot of the Abrahamic faiths came out of the Middle East. In the Middle East, there's nothing wrong with that, but it was a huge population base. And to survive, it was often easy to keep yourself quiet and not cause a fuss. In the northern world, there was a very small population base. And therefore, survival of the fittest and basic natural selection continued in the human species much longer. And therefore, there was more of a reliance up into the modern period of being strong and forthright. I don't want to get overly vitriolic here against the Abrahamic faiths, but I will say that the northern world is created an adaptation to Proto-Indo-European that turned into what was Norse paganism. If natural selection is powerful enough to change our skin tones, then why wouldn't it be powerful enough to shape the world around us? And our philosophical, our metaphysical philosophy of worldview. So that's why it's not turned the other cheek, it stands strong. We do live in a modern world, though. Nobody is gaining anything by going out and saying, I'm going to axe this person, I'm going to go to Valhalla. The significance and growth of Valhalla, we don't really see it written down before the Christian incursions. So it is very possible that it was a motivating tactic when there was very, very real, constant warfare against and attacks against the people of the North. Just going to leave it there. You shouldn't want to go to Valhalla. You're probably not going to go. There's a whole bunch of reasons. I mean, how are you more badass than dudes that had to fight with a sword every single day 1,000 years ago? It's just, it is what it is. However, Valhalla is the name of our page because it is a place that is very polarizing. It is a name that's very polarizing. Another process that I'd like to talk about is the conflation of concepts with Christianity. Valhalla is not heaven. Helheim is not hell. Thor is not Jesus, and Odin is not God. They're completely separate. It's not even a branch and then something came off like Judaism. It is completely different worlds. Can't see how close my arms are because they're not out of the camera view. They don't even come into frame, and therefore Christianity and northern paganism have nothing to do with each other. It's possible that the profusion and proliferation of the concept of Ragnarok was after the Christian influence and incursion up into the northern lands. It's very disanalogous. Don't acknowledge that. What we do know is the sagas and the Eddas and the other stories, the writings, and archaeological evidence that we have. That's all we do know. And from that, we can pull the 9 Noble Virtues, which are a very good life guide, but they are also common sense. We pull that as in we look at the characteristics and the character traits the gods upheld, and we base 9 Noble Virtues off that. One of the big ones is self-reliance. And I'll give you my explanation of self-reliance and why it's important, because we can do nothing without ourselves. And you can look at the Christians and the other Abrahamic faiths believe that God made them in their image. Now you look at our northern gods, they look like a person from Northern Europe. Our ancestors made our gods in their image. I'm one of the people that happens to look at the gods as personifications of nature. And if my ancestors are going to explain the forces of nature around them, of course they're going to put it into a term that they can understand. What can they understand? These features. That doesn't mean that this is not a universalist religion. It's not a salvation-based religion, but it can be open to everybody. Everybody has a right to love the nature around them. Look at this Black Forest. Look at this magical place where all the legends of continental Europe came from. The last remaining parts of the Hessian forest that stretched from end to end when the Romans were here. Another thing, there's no way you're being punished by going to hell. Hell is a morally ambiguous place. That's it. It's more so a mirror world of the world we live in. And therefore, I'd like to go there. The other halls in Asgard where you could go is if you're chosen amongst the gods, you can prove yourself really remarkable. Sitting there and saying you're going to go somewhere does nothing. Go out and do good deeds. Be a good person. Help the world around you, and you have a better chance of going somewhere great. Not to say Helheim's bad. If you had a choice of being separated from your family forever or spending your life with your loving parents, children, wife, wouldn't you want that? So wouldn't you choose Helheim? The only thing that was really, really looked down upon in the ancient days is an oath breaker. If you broke an oath, look at Tyr, the warrior god, the former king of the gods, arguably, lost his hand, his right hand, his sword hand, because he broke an oath with Fenrir. We can look at the developments of the culture from the Stone Age to the Iron Age to the Bronze Age, and it's really, really cool. To the Bronze Age and the Iron Age. It's very, very cool because I was under the impression that continental Europe was always a forest, but it wasn't. And during the Paleolithic period, the Neanderthals had been in Europe for about 100,000 years before modern Homo sapiens got there around 35,000 years ago, and they had already developed the light features. The reason being, northern Europe, most of Europe, was a tundra. That's why these features developed, because it was easier to blend in a white landscape just to hide. The forest didn't come up till much later. So actually these physical adaptations that everybody's saying is superior aren't superior. They're adapted to a climate that no longer exists. So that's some ammunition against all the neos that want to come into our faith. Importance of community and ritual is important to all people. That's why I feel it's important for a lot of people, and Mickey and myself talked about this, for a lot of people, before you come to paganism, it's good to go through an atheist or agnostic period. I myself still more agnostic than anything. My gods and my ancestors deserve worship. My gods deserve worship because they are the world around me, and that's what my ancestors believed in, and that's all I need to know. I still am just a good person for myself, and I'm a good person for my progeny because my name is not my own. I got it from previous generations, and also my honor is not my own. It's my children's honor and my children's children's honor. That's why I must do everything to preserve the world around me. And it's very easy for me to understand that in a context of Nordic paganism or Germanic paganism because it allows me to work in harmony with nature, but also to understand that at the end of the day, it's all on me. It's all from within. Self-reliance. That being said, everybody deserves a sense of community. I've also often had Abrahamic people say, well, what do you mean you guys sort of celebrate Christmas? Well, we don't. We celebrate Yule, but most of the modern European holidays, even if they are religious, were taken from Germanic paganism. And there's nothing wrong with celebrating Yule. Everybody deserves traditions and rituals. I've written videos. I do a little blood blot whenever I'm in a sacred place, whenever I'm in a place that I love. And that's very important to me. Everybody deserves a community. And that's what I'm trying to create here, is for all of you to spread knowledge, learn, talk things out. One thing that I don't allow is to spread a misinformation. You can't read the Eddas and say, well, I believe that everything is just analogy or heaven is synonymous to Valhalla. Because what you believe does not matter. What you believe matters to you. That's it. What I believe matters to me. I'm only going to try to expound upon things that are in writing or are evident through archaeological research. What we need to realize is that there was a lot of Christian influence upon Germanic paganism, not only in the conversion period, but when they wrote about it, the Wagnerian period, the Romanticism, when they were building castles along the Rhine, and the English finally didn't live in fear of the Norsemen anymore. And they were traveling, age exploration, they were traveling around the world. And when people see things they don't really understand, or when they read things they don't understand, they have to put it into a context they do understand. And that context was often their daily life, which was Christian, the Abrahamic ways. So we have to realize, instead of proselytizing, that there are influences of Christianity, even in the modern period of Valhalla. Look at the proliferation of profusion of horns, the horns never existed. The horns did exist 2,000 years ago in continental Germanism, but the Vikings never wore the horns. If you say in a greater pagan context that you want a horned helmet, that's totally okay, or a winged helmet like Arminius wore. But if you are misguided and don't realize the dangers of spreading misinformation and confusing two periods 1,000 years apart, then you really need to start somewhere and ground yourself. So we need to be very discerning when we look at anything created out of anything besides archaeology. Like the rise of nationalism and the concepts of the historical personages, just like theories kind of fall out of existence, like the sun being the center of everything and all that. Certain theories are proven wrong by science and also evaluative research. So we also realized that Odin was not a Scythian or a Jewish man. He was a possible many different historical personages, but we cannot speculate upon it because nothing exists from that time period. Bogs and groves and sacrifices, anything worth anything to you. This ring, I should sacrifice it in a grove. Speaking with the gods is not a bad thing. Praying and asking for favors is a bad thing. Getting on your knees and humbling yourself is never a bad thing. Even if you humble yourself to those you care about. It's opening your inner heart. I'm really sorry. There's the literal and the figurative. The figurative would be stories. Stories of the gods in Asgard. You can take it literally or you can take it figuratively. There is no concrete path. The only thing you can't do is make disanalogous allusions and spread those. In the Pantheon, Odin is not king. He is simply the most learned. It has been theorized that previous times Odin and also Frey were the main gods. And that's why the Vanir or the earth spirits were primarily the deities when the people were hunting in the forest and running on the tundra, because you had stags and boars and very real dangers. And as we started to settle down in cities and started to have loftier philosophical thoughts and more developed ideas, then we started to get into sky gods. Because what is imagination? It's sky. It's the heaven above, because it's not tangible. By being not tangible, it's not concrete. So it puts it into perspective for us to understand that things aren't always the way they were handed to us, but you can still find a way to make yourself a good person out of the 9 virtues and out of a satru. I hope I wasn't rambling too much. I did climb up a friggin' mountain to do this, and I'm in a very, very sacred place for myself. I'm going to take a few minutes to be humble and be quiet, and then I have to go back down the mountain. My parents are down there waiting for me to show them something else. So thank you all. I hope I brought some type of insight. If you have any questions, please ask me. Don't hesitate to ask me. If I don't know, it gives me a reason to research and learn more. And I'm a nerd at heart. So thank you. We hit 10,000 people. Thank you all for being part of this. I do want to bring us all together. I have some plans. I have some ideas. I will be visiting some more people and trying to enact those plans to create a very real gathering within the next year or so. And, with my honor, I leave you all.